Hey there, and welcome to another episode on Mompreneurs Making Moves. I'm your host, Amariah Murdoch, and I'm the founder and owner of Infinite Exec. For those of you who know a busy business owner who needs to be working on their business and not just in their business, we offer high-level operations and admin support so you can get things done with the right wing woman. And you can find us at infiniteexec.com. That's infinitexac.com. But if you've ever tried to answer emails with a toddler pulling at your sleeve, or you've wondered how to grow your business while chasing your kids and, of course, your dreams, you're in the right place. Because every week we'll get real about wins, messes, and all the magical moments in between, sharing practical tips, honest stories, and the laughs that keep us going. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we have the amazing Nora. She's the founder of Process Makes Perfect, which I absolutely love that name. She's an operations expert, entrepreneur, and former agency CEO who has spent over 15 years helping startups and small businesses grow. After scaling her own company to a 358% valuation increase, I mean, that is incredible. And, having a successful acquisition, she now works as a fractional COO and consultant, helping founders build their systems and processes that make growth sustainable. And, that's just very powerful. I almost want to take a minute just to talk about that. But, helping people have sustainable organization and sustainable systems, not only so they can scale, but they can scale it and sell the business, or they can just further their impact in the world. It's huge. And we do that at Infinite Exec from a different angle, from the actual day-to-day support in some ways. But, it's just incredible when you have someone who knows what they're doing in operations, they can get you going. A lot of people come to me all the time. I work with a lot of CEOs and they say, I don't know where to even start. So if that's you and you're listening to this episode, definitely tune in, keep listening, and reach out. Just go ahead right now, go to LinkedIn, find Nora. Her link will also be below the episode, but just reach out to her and say, hey, hi, I'm here. Nora, how are you today?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I just realized too that you have a BA from Vassar College.
I do, yeah.
Okay, that is where my mom, she grew up in New York. She also graduated from Vassar.
Oh, no way. It's a great school.
So
right before I signed in to talk to you, I just signed up for my next reunion in January. Or I'm sorry, not in January, in June.
Wow.
The deadline's in January. So, once you are part of that community, it's very hard to extricate yourself. So going back for a reunion in June.
Wow.
Yes, it was a really incredible 4 years. I'm really grateful to have had that opportunity.
And that's a really fancy school. It's a notable school.
It sounds fancier than the experience of going there, which is always hilarious to me because me and my friends talk about how it's used as a proxy for saying something about a bit character in media, in TV and film. And we're always no, that person would not have actually got. It's it's very. There's a few fancy people, that fall through the cracks or whatever. But for the most part, it's very down to earth people that are they do a really great job. At least when I was there, I don't know. It's been a minute. But when I was there, they do a really great job with making it accessible to people. They do a great job with socioeconomic diversity in each class. And so it was not snooty, which I really appreciated. I came from, I've been public educated my whole life. That was the first time I had ever had private education. And so I was kind of ooh, what am I getting myself into? But it was awesome. A lot of public school kids, like I said, very down to earth. It just sounds snooty. It was once very snooty. And for very rich, daughters of very rich, prestigious families, but it's very different now.
Yeah, I know that makes sense. And my mom, she actually, when she was going there, she went to school with Malcolm X's daughter.
Oh, wow.
So just to kind of give a little bit of context to when she was going and stuff like that. So I That makes sense. Yeah.
There are still some famous kids, like, celebrity kids that go there, but I've met a couple and they're not people that you would think, oh, they have a famous parent. Like, everybody is, it's a pretty chill place, and there's a lot of emphasis on like doing good in the world, and not just like generational wealth. Like, I imagine, like, I don't know, like Harvard or someplace like that feels like it would be a very different experience, whereas Vassar churns out a lot of like people who work in social justice and like lawyers and doctors and like people who contribute to the world in a very positive way that I'm really proud of. So
yeah, no, that is awesome.
Great alumni community, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, and that reminds me too, I mean, that segues perfectly into, tell us a little about yourself and what is the good that you put out into the world as a fractional COO? What does that mean?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for framing it that way. So there's kind of two parts to that question. A fractional COO is somebody who comes in on to like minimize it a little bit, but like kind of a part-time basis, meaning I'm not full-time staff, but I am involved in the company on a like semi-continuous basis, meaning I'm not coming in for like a month. Typically I'm coming in for like my shortest engagement right now is like 6 months. So it's a fairly long-term, fairly like embedded position. Most of my clients are, and that's more of like the traditional COO or any kind of like fractional, is typically like a limited engagement. But most of my clients right now, I'm in sort of an open-ended engagement with them. But I work with female-founded and female-led organizations, primarily startups, or small businesses, because I actually work with a lot of small local businesses that are run by like female solopreneurs. And I come in and I do what can broadly be defined as like operations consulting. So we address things like things that are stressing them out, things that are taking their time that are not supposed to be on their plate or shouldn't be on their plate. We talk about bottlenecks in the business that are hindering growth. We sometimes talk about growth itself, like what is their plan? How do we get there? With my more early stage startups, we talk a lot about, who are they serving and what problem are they solving? And so we really try to get, no matter where the company is in its life cycle, I really try to come in and unravel any, like, I'm kind of mixing metaphors here, but like any bottlenecks that are, you know what I mean? Like any sort of, let's say widen any bottlenecks. I didn't think that metaphor through in my head.
No.
Before I started talking. But like anything that is either currently or will in the future prevent the company from growing to its fullest potential and to the potential that the founder wants. So the goal is not make everything into like a Fortune 500 company. Very few of my clients want to like grow it to sell it. It's really like they've like created their dream jobs for themselves, but they want to make sure that this is a reality for a long time to come. And that they can give other people opportunities. And so my job is to help them build the foundation and what I call kind of like the scaffolding so that they can build their business sustainably without it kind of like toppling or themselves personally like toppling under the weight of the business.
Yeah. And actually, this brings up a great pain point for a lot of the clients that even I serve, my team and I serve. And I've heard it over and over, and that's why it comes to mind immediately right now. When I hear operations, I'm thinking, speak to this if you can. A lot of founders and CEOs right now are having an issue with their team in the sense of being able to keep up with the accountability piece. Are they getting done? And are they taking full ownership over what I've handed off to them? That's what the CEO is saying. And they're like, what am I supposed to do if it's not getting done? I worry throughout the day mentally that when I hand off something, it's not getting done, and then I have to follow up with them to get something done, and that creates another job for the founder. And then they're paying to follow up with people to do their stuff, right? So what are a couple of ideas or one idea that you have around that? I'm just out of curiosity.
Yeah, that's actually a very common concern, and unfortunately common issue. So my background as a manager is in remote work. So I've actually had a lot of experience with this because I've never been like in the same room as the people that work for me. And what I learned sort of the hard way along like over the years is the first step is really like hiring people that you can trust, you believe in their skill set, you feel that they work similarly to how you work, and so you feel comfortable delegating to them. Because I think when we talk about these kinds of issues amongst the team, I mean, this is going to sound a little bit like blunt, but the truth is a lot of these people probably should not have been hired if you're having these issues repeatedly. They're, employees are human.
Yeah.
Humans have ups and downs. They may have something going on outside of work that is creating some extenuating circumstances. I'm not talking about like the one-off. Like if you have a super reliable employee that like drops the ball a couple times or like makes a mistake, like that's normal. That's not something that I would react to. That's just humanity. And we all have those weeks and we all make mistakes. So like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the employees that like, it sounds like what you're describing is the people you like constantly have to like check in on and micromanage and like practically push along to make progress where they're supposed to be taking things off your plate, but it ends up actually like multiplying the work that's on your plate because you have to like drag them along. Yeah. There's a couple things. First, like I said, like if you're in the situation where you're encountering this with an employee, it's time for some kind of like performance improvement plan. It's time for some hard conversations, and it may now or more likely in the near future be time to part ways with that employee. I try to frame it as not like someone is inadequate and you're getting rid of them, but like this isn't a good fit. Clearly, yeah. Everyone has their strengths. No one is like useless. Yeah. Their strengths and their skill set may not be a fit for either the job or the company culture or your management style. And that is okay. But you need to learn from that and hire differently next time. And so the second piece of it is either hiring initially or rehiring, to sort of like backfill that role, thinking really carefully through your initial hiring, screening, and interview process, and making sure that you're really kind of distilling down what the elements of success of the job are, and making sure that interview process and even like the job application questions, the job description even, is very closely reflecting what the real elements for success in this role are. And you'd be surprised how often that doesn't happen, and how the job description or the interview process or whatever your screening process is does not adequately reflect what the role is in reality and what it requires from the candidate. So that's the second piece. The third piece is onboarding properly and educating the new employee once you've hired and found the right person properly. And that involves, this is like a bigger conversation, but having the right onboarding process, the right training process, the right education resources that they have at their disposal that you're providing for them. And I'm not talking about like, hey, check the like Microsoft knowledge base. I'm talking about like you should have custom homegrown like SOPs that are specific to how to do this job at this company. Yeah. The other is, and then like the fourth, am I up to four? The fourth piece, I think I'm up to four, is how you manage them. So to some extent, you need to figure out what degree of availability is appropriate, meaning like how you communicate with them, how you allow yourself to be accessible to your employees. I pretty much, when I was a manager, I pretty much had an open door policy. I was very clear that I never expected perfection, but I did expect people to own up to their mistakes quickly so we could solve them together. I also expected people to come to me with a suggested solution. It didn't necessarily have to be like the perfect solution, but I wanted people to come to me without expecting me to solve their problems. So there was like a very clear understanding that like I am available, I am not going to blame you for things, but I do expect you to like essentially be an adult and like take responsibility for your mistake and how we're going to fix it, or at least start the process of fixing it. So that's not appropriate for every organization or every manager, but that's what worked for me. But the point is that what worked for me, I was very transparent about like what my policy was.
Yes.
So that plus respecting your employees' expertise and getting the heck out of their way. I mean, a lot of times some of these problems are preventable by the manager just not micromanaging. You hired someone because you believe in them, you believe in their expertise. They may be more of an expert they likely will be more of an expert in their job than you are.
Yeah.
You got to listen to them. And so I think a lot of times not always, but a lot of times what is mistaken for like, oh, I have to drag this person along to do the job is really just like kind of a downward spiral of the manager micromanaging, the employee not feeling empowered, autonomous, supported in their role. They lose some motivation. There are morale issues, and it's sort of like a rinse and repeat thing. So I always say, like, you hired people to be the expert, let them be the expert. That doesn't mean you never give input. That doesn't mean you never check in.
Yeah.
But there has to be a limit to how much direction you give. There's a point where like it's an appropriate level of managerial direction. And then there's a point when you're just micromanaging, and that sucks for everyone involved. So I counsel people on that sort of thing, but more typically when I come in, there aren't a lot of employees, and the team that they do have is contract. So when I come in, we're talking about initial hires. They may have like 1 or 2 full-time people, but we're talking about like, okay, expanding the team and hiring. So I really come at it as like okay, first we need to look at the job description. Then we need to make sure that the hiring process is optimized to find the right person for this job and set everyone up for success. Then we need to talk about onboarding. Mm-hmm. So those are my like key pieces that I work with the most.
Yeah.
Okay, I think all those stages are relevant. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I'm like, let's talk about onboarding and hiring really quick. I want to get it out before I forget. I'm like, wait, okay, onboarding. So if there's a founder who's like, okay, I get what you're saying. My initial hiring, my hiring process, blah, right? I'm too busy. I can't do this right now. Yeah. So if I do need to fire these people, I don't have the time to onboard them.
Yeah.
And to that.
Sorry, make the time. I'd say make the time. I'd say your team is the linchpin of your success. If you don't put the time and energy into finding the right team and not just like hiring, but training, managing, developing, even mentoring the right team, you're never going to succeed. You're always going to be your own bottleneck or your business's bottleneck. Because, for example, if you're complaining now that you don't have the time to fire then hire and onboard someone new, if you skip out on the time now, what do you think is going to happen next? You're going to have to keep repeating this process. Yeah. So put in the time now, do it right, and it's going to save you a heck of a lot of time down the road, assuming you are also managing your people properly and treating them well and stuff, which is another piece of the sort of overall puzzle. But in terms of, specific to the question, I would say make the time, because this is like the number one most important thing. If you don't hire well, you end up being distracted from your job because you're having to, whatever it ends up being, either compensate for somebody, fix their mistakes, hire and onboard somebody new. Like, lots of time sucks in your future. That doesn't help anybody. That's not what you're supposed to be spending your time on as the founder. And also, like, if people aren't the right fit for the job, they're not doing good work. Your company is not serving its customers well. Yeah. That affects growth in very obvious ways. That affects retention in very obvious ways. That also affects morale, which affects, presumably your more optimal fit team members as well. You have to find the time. Like, there is no way around it. Yeah. You're gonna stay in this like sort of like sort of like quicksand, like time suck kind of situation until you break out of it. And like I talk a lot about like pattern interruptions. You have to kind of pattern interrupt in order to get into a better pattern of not having to like compensate, then fire and rehire and retrain.
Yes. And if I was like, okay, fine, I'll make the time, but I don't even know where to start with my onboarding process.
Yeah.
Is that where we would come to you and say,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple ways to do this, I think. Like, you don't necessarily need an expert. I don't have like a PhD in onboarding, but what I do have is a lot of experience onboarding, a lot of experience training new employees and like hiring new employees. And I have like I think a lot of management is just humility, is being able to kind of like step outside of the situation and objectively evaluate where the weaknesses are and fix them without any ego, without any defensiveness. That goes a long way when you're a manager. And so that's what I would help do is sort of like take a step back, look at the big picture. And a lot of times what it comes down to, besides there's personality things and there's personality fit, like individual personalities plus like the fit. And there's a lot of things at play that are a little bit more intangible. But in terms of the tangible, a lot of times what it comes down to is a lack of clarity because there's no set process, a lack of responsibility on like who is teed up to like help and jump into the onboarding process in what way, and a lack of resources for clear, consistent education in terms of like teaching the way to do the job, teaching how this company does task X or deliverable B or whatever, so it has to be very like, this all sounds so, what I do is like so unsexy, it's not like the sales and it's not like, but I'm telling you, like, if you don't have these things, you are going to struggle more than you have to. You are going to work more than you have to, and your company is going to be your growth is going to be rockier than it has to be and potentially limited. Like there's just no way around that.
No, I love that. I love that. And I think that's what we're going to do. The title of the episode, it's going to be the unsexy but critical part.
Yeah.
Of being a business
I say that a lot. I'm always like, when I get on the phone with like new prospective clients, I'm always like, well, I want to build you this process. And they're like, cool. And I'm like, look, I know it's not like the most exciting, glamorous part of running a business, but it is the most fundamental. It's like, I talk a lot about like the scaffolding, like this is the scaffolding, because if the building is the business, you're building it piece by piece. There's a point where if there's nothing holding the building up, it will collapse. Like if it's in progress, and it's not a completely self-sufficient business building, it will collapse without the right scaffolding. So we build the solid foundation, and then we start to build the scaffolding that keeps the company steady as it's growing and stable as it's growing. Otherwise, if you think about a building being built without scaffolding, they top out. Like a literal building that was built before scaffolding was invented. I don't know, I'm making this up, like 5-6 stories or something like that. Like we're not talking about like 100-story, like the Sears Tower or something. Right. Like that is not a possibility without the right organizational structure in place.
Right. No, and actually, if you think of it too, just like a marriage, and I haven't been married for long, but from what I understand, like you can't really get into sexy time anyways if the foundational pieces and the security that the woman needs and the respect that the man needs aren't in place, right? Yeah. Like it's really hard. Like totally. So I think we're gonna title this "There is no sexy without scaffolding."
There you go. I like that. I love alliteration. Well, and you know what? I think people are going to be real curious and listen to the episode.
Okay, really quick, hiring. And then I want to go into taking care of your people, showing value. Okay, so hiring. What should we be looking for? Top 3 things that you say are absolutely necessary if you want to hire well.
I think skill set and experience is really critical. I don't tend to look at education. That's a fairly controversial thing.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, everybody who worked for me at my agency, I can tell you where one of them went to college. And I'm not even sure I like fully remember like the right name. I might have the wrong name in my brain. I have no idea where my people were educated. What I do know is where they worked, what they have done at my company, what their attitude toward work is, what their personality was like on the phone when we were interviewing, how they like stay up on on industry trends. Like, I don't care where they did their bachelor's degree. I really don't. So I never look at that. I mean, you know, I will say the exception to that is, unfortunately, I do tend to require bachelor's degrees, like, from anywhere. But beyond that, like, I will not prioritize a candidate who went to, like, Princeton over a candidate who went to University of Illinois. I don't care. Like, I truly don't. What I care about is attention to detail, thought. And so I'm thinking right now, specifically, like, when I'm reviewing applications, because I've literally reviewed thousands of job applications in my career. I look for attention to detail. I look for thoughtful responses. And I look for people who can sort of, this is sort of a weird way to, like, effortlessly, but they've still put effort into it, show me that they know what they're talking about. Meaning, like, they're not just, like, dropping jargon constantly, but they're actually, like, thoughtfully walking me through the answer to the whatever, like, technical question, screening questions in the application. You can tell when people have put thought into it. And that's like the number one thing I look for. I read through the application answers, like, rather than, like, I don't really look at the resume first. I really do look at their sort of screening question answers first, because you can just tell a lot about a person's like, work ethic and the depth of their knowledge as it relates to the job. And again, just to tie back to something I said earlier, that's why getting the hiring process, the job application, the job description, and the screening questions, like, so precise. That's why that's so important. Then when I interview, I look for really basic things. Like, are they on time? Are they in a, like, clean, sort of professional looking space? Like, I don't care, just to be clear, if someone's in their bedroom, I do not care. If someone, like, I literally interviewed somebody once who was in this, like, really sketchy, like, den type thing, and there was, like, weird, like, neon lights and, like, a gaming setup behind him. There was, like, trash, like old, like, pizza boxes and stuff behind him, and he was, like, sloppy, and, like, it wasn't it wasn't something that I would want to, it wasn't a scenario I would want to reflect us, toward a client.
Right.
So I do look at that. Like, is this person going to reflect the company, adequately in front of a client? I'm not looking for somebody in a suit necessarily. Like, that's not, I mean, literally just, like, do they seem like they can comport themselves professionally? I don't care if they're in a hoodie or something, like I'm not talking about, like, casual clothes or something like that. I look for someone who is familiar with the company. I can't tell you how many people I have interviewed where their application was, like, decent, but then we get on the phone and it is very clear they have no idea what the company does. So I always ask a question that is, like, frankly, a little tricky, like a little bit of a trick question, to ensure that they have done their research. And again, this goes back to attention to detail. That's a huge thing for me. And then I do filter it down to, like, I don't know, 3 to 5 candidates, like, finalists, and I ask them to do a challenge. And that is basically a fancy name for a case study. to make sure that they know what they say they know. And I make it very succinct. If it's a little bit more in depth, I will provide like a stipend for their time. I don't ask for more than like an hour of their time without compensating them. And so we've done it both, like at my agency, we did it both ways. And people are typically pretty, if you're very clear about like, this is what we're expecting, there should not be more than one page of results. Do not spend more than an hour on this. People are pretty receptive to that. Yeah. And then always check their references. Always have somebody else on your team do like a final interview with them. Just gut check, culture check. Also, it's ideal if it's somebody who will be working with them, just to make sure that they also feel that this person has the expertise. They also feel this person will do a good job, whatever. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
check their references. I can't stress that enough.
No, that is very helpful. And I'm actually doing a little bit of hiring for a company here locally, and these are all great reminders.
Yeah.
I've done it before, but there are certain things that are basics that need to be done. Doesn't matter what it is or who it is or if they've known them for 10 years, just because you want to make sure that you do the best you can for that company and for yourself if it's your own company.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about valuing your team. And it reminds me of a quote that I usually refer to when I talk about authentic leadership, servant leadership. There we go.
What is, I don't know, I'm not familiar with that term. What is that? What does servant leadership mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So essentially, and that's a great question, being a servant leader means that you are just as boots on the ground as your team. You are willing to serve them just as much as, if not more than what they serve. Like you as a leader are the people and what it looks like. You're modeling that, right? And that reminds me of one of the stories, and if I had more time, I'd go into it because it's a really good story, but it explains servant leadership, and it's one of my favorites. But for lack of time, I'm just going to keep going.
That's okay. Yep. I think you did a really good job just like briefly explaining it, so I get where you're going.
Okay, perfect. No, and I mean, I really do. I love it. I'm passionate about leadership. That's why I got my master's in it, actually.
Yeah.
But, one of the quotes, there we go, is something along the lines, and I can't remember exactly who said it. I think it's Zig Ziglar or something. But he said, you don't build your business, you build your people, and then your people build your business. And so I wanted to segue with that quote into showing value. Yeah. What are ways, first, why is it important that we have that with our team as a business owner? And then 2, what are at least 2 ways that we can do that with our team?
Yeah. To your question about why it's important to show your team that you value them, I think the quote that you just said really sums it up. You don't build your business, your people build your business. And that's true if you have contractors, that's true if you have part-time people, that's true if you have very junior employees. They are contributing essential elements of your day-to-day productivity and deliverables and whatever, because if they weren't essential, they shouldn't be on your team. I mean, that's really what it is. So everybody is essential to making the company succeed. You do something different than them, you are not more valuable than them. I strongly believe that everybody is equally valuable, even like me as a leader, I'm not more essential to the business than like an administrative assistant would be. I just do a different job and I might be more visible. But I think what it really comes down to in terms of answering, the direct answer to your question is because they're freaking people. I mean, they're humans. They're people that are important to your business. And so there's a business case to making sure that they are empowered to do the best job that they can. They are growing within your company because that prevents future hiring needs, which is, of course, a time suck and a resource suck. You want them to represent your business when they're there for many of your clients, or maybe all your clients, and they're the face of the business. You want them to represent your business well. I mean, there's a million reasons. Productivity is higher if morale is higher. That's just obvious, I think, should be. Right. But at the end of the day, because they're freaking people, because like, you presumably have been there. You weren't born into the CEO chair.
Right.
You have presumably, for most leaders, worked your way up. You know what it feels like to be in the metaphorical mailroom. If you don't, go find out. I mean, like, I truly believe that. I'm really proud of, and I will tell anyone who will listen, that I have done every single job in my agency for at least a short amount of time. That doesn't mean I've done like every single little task, but like I have done everybody's job to some extent.
Yes.
I have also made sure to be very in touch with the fact that I have been in that seat. Like, I have been the person who the leader is making decisions for. Like, I have been on the team. I have been even like, so the acquisition that I went through is a really great example of this. At the job before my agency, like my last job kind of working for somebody else, they went through an acquisition as well. And it was truly a nightmare. Like, I was just on staff. I wasn't like on the leadership team. And it was awful. It was like, they told us at the last minute that everything changed. Like, all the things that we really valued as employees were kind of just like, well, that's not really happening anymore. You know, all the flexibility we had, which, like, just to be clear, like, this wasn't like a blue chip company. There was nothing prestigious about working for this company. They weren't paying us the highest in the field. Like, we were really there because we liked the way the company was run. It gave us a good quality of life. And there was a lot of flexibility to how we did our job, and we had a lot of autonomy. All that was erased in the acquisition. So when it came time for me to sell my company, I was very in touch with, I mean, and this is like very, very niche. Like, I had been on the team of a company having been acquired previously. Yeah. So I made it very, a very high priority to like retain the team, retain certain things. Our insurance was a huge thing. I said, like, we really, I want a guarantee that you will retain our insurance, our current insurance policy, for, I don't remember what it was, like 12 months or something. I can't remember. There were other like terms that I negotiated on behalf of my employees because because they're people. I just like, it's that simple. Just treat people the way you want to be treated, or you would want to be treated if the tables are turned.
Right.
Again, me being in the leadership seat doesn't mean I'm better than anyone. I mean, that's really what it is. We're all humans.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very well said. And so we understand the importance of showing value, and now talk about 2 ways, just super quick. I want to go to another topic.
Yeah. Okay.
2 ways that we can show value.
Allowing your employees as much autonomy as possible. And by that, I don't mean like, just be like, oh, figure it out. I'll be in my office eating bonbons. I mean, like, when a problem comes up, I would recommend asking the employee what they think the solution is before you say, well, here's the solution. This is what you should do. And then you can talk through it. And of course you give feedback, and of course you workshop it with them. Obviously you give your input, but let them lead. Let the employee do their job and get out of the way. The second thing is good benefits and perks. And this sounds probably like it should be way down the list, but I guarantee you it is not. So one example is my agency always paid 100% of the premium for our employees' health insurance, and we gave them very good health insurance. And then we would pay like a very generous portion of their dependents' premiums if they insured their family as well. That is expensive, and that is not easy to do. But the amount of goodwill that it generates, and the signal that it sends that, like, you are valuable, you are entitled to this, healthcare is a human right, we believe that. Similar with things like parental leave, like give as much parental leave as you can afford as a company. Just those kinds of like just basic things that make your employees' lives easier and make them feel seen, heard, and valued by, just giving them what they deserve. And that in turn, again, there's a business case for it. That takes a load off their mind when they are doing their job. Yeah. Or that makes them think twice if some recruiter reaches out to them and says like, hey, are you interested in interviewing for this job? By the way, they don't pay your healthcare, like the compensation is the same, but you have to pay a lot more for your benefits. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's the savings? Yes, of course, you're paying a lot for healthcare premiums, but what are you saving in recruiting and hiring and onboarding costs?
Yeah.
But most importantly, I really believe healthcare is a human right, and this country has some work to do on their healthcare system. So I made that a huge priority. I can't change the world, but I could run my company the way I thought was right. So absolutely. I think that kind of thing goes a long way. It sends the right signals and it helps retain people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's talk last thing really quick. And there's so much more we can talk about. So definitely.
There is. We'll have a part 2. Yeah.
We just got started. Yeah, you know what?
Totally.
Part 2. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is
we
perfect.
can do a part 2. I'd love that. Yeah.
And part 2 is coming right after. That would be great.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Agency. How do you know you're cut out for starting to have a team as a business owner? And to start an agency. You and I both have agencies, so that's a good topic. And then from part 2, we've got to touch on how you built up your business to scale, to sell it. Was that what you were going for? Did it just organically lead to that? That'll be part 2, because that's the next place I want to go.
Okay. That's a long story, so we should save that for part 2.
Okay.
How do you know when it's time to hire, and how do you know how to like manage people? You know when it's time to hire when you can't keep doing it all yourself in a way that serves the business. And what I mean by that is like, so I work with women founders, obviously, and women are prone to, I can do that, I'll do it, I can handle it. Yeah. And they're very quick to just take it on themselves and be like, I can figure it out. Like, yeah, you can figure it out. You're very capable, but you only have 24 hours in the day and you should be sleeping for part of that. I also work with a lot of female founders who are parents, and so they want to spend time with their kids. They have to be at pickup. I mean, like, this is my situation too. Like, I have to pick up my kid at 3. So I can't be working 12-hour days. Yeah. And therefore, if I have 12 hours of work, I mean, I don't, but like hypothetically, if someone has 12 hours of work to do in the day and only 8 hours of time, you need to hire someone. Yeah. Managing is a whole other thing. You can be a good manager, I think, by just like being a good person and staying in touch with your humanity and thinking like, if the tables were turned, what would I want? Yeah. However, you do have to learn to be a manager, I think, through experience. Yeah. There's just no way around it. You're never prepared. I think, honestly, like, parenting kind of helps a little bit, you know? Like, there's not that I, like, treat my employees like my children by any means. Right. But, I mean, just the thing about, like, you know, with my kids, like, I have developed a lot of patience. I've developed the ability to like consider other ways to do things that maybe I hadn't thought of. And like those types of behaviors or mindsets do transfer over. But for the most part, you just have to manage people and do your best and get lots of feedback, give them lots of feedback, but also solicit feedback from them on a regular basis. Keep the lines of communication open. Be as transparent with information and intent as is appropriate for the business. Yeah. You know, obviously there's a limit. And just, you're gonna make mistakes. Yeah. Like, just be prepared for that. No one is good at management until they've managed, you know? And some people who manage still aren't good at management, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah. No, that is a key piece, because I think a lot of people think, I'm going to grow my vision and I'm going to change the world. I'm going to put my, you know, impact out and change, you know, and they forget that managing people is a part of that. Yeah. Doing operations is a part of that.
Yeah. And these are skills. These are not things that are that you do in passing, you know, when you're building a company. These are actual skill sets that you have to learn and develop. And I just don't feel like enough managers or entrepreneurs like really realize that.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
they will. They usually find out the hard way.
Yes. Absolutely. And I'm itching to keep going in that. So we are definitely going to schedule our part 2 very quickly.
Sounds great.
So we can just do this one week, part 2 the next week. So for those of you listening, definitely keep your eyes out for this next part. It has been such a pleasure, Nora.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm excited for part 2 because
me too.
the other things I'm ready to get into. So
all right.
And for all of you listening, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Mompreneurs Making Moves. If you found a little encouragement, a fresh idea, or you just felt seen and heard, definitely subscribe, share this with your mompreneur friends, and even engage with us in the comments. And remember that every small step you take in your business and in your life matters, and you are absolutely not alone on this journey. So keep showing up, keep making moves, and don't forget to take care of yourself too. Make sure to follow us at Mompreneurs Making Moves on Instagram and Facebook, and you can watch the full interview on our YouTube channel at Mompreneurs Making Moves Official. And you can join Nora and I next time on our part 2 for why there is no sexy without scaffolding. Thank you.